How's it going, duelists? It's that time of the format where we get to talk about Banlist predictions. Everyone's favorite time of the format, honestly. And let's get right into it. And the first card I think a lot of players are looking forward to getting hit on this list is Diablos the Mind Hacker. Now, since Kashtira has seen its way into the metagame, we've actually seen Diablos just kind of wreaking havoc on the players in general, being able to either lock down all their spells, all their monsters, and once in a while, pretty much both fields kind of all together, which has kind of been the reason why a lot of players are thinking Diablos is going to be hit on the list. And honestly, rightly so. It's kind of not really healthy for the game right now, especially with Kashtira just being as consistent as they are. So I do love Diablos as a card. I think even beforehand, it was kind of a neat kind of tech in a bunch of decks, but it might be time to say goodbye to Diablos the Mind Hacker. Next up on the forbidden list would be Branded Expulsion. And again, this is another card a bunch of players were kind of talking about, being able to either bring out monsters on the opponent's board, such as the Gimmick Puppet or Raw's Disciple, where they're unable to special summon monsters in general, just kind of locking them out of duels, to even some tech choices like Jinzo being revived to kind of stop all the trap decks from moving forward with their turn. Branded Expulsion did kind of let us have some fun tech in the branded deck, but I do believe it is time to see it go. And with this, it's kind of just a tiny little card out of the branded deck, so branded can actually kind of go full force again into the meta game, kind of keep seeing a bunch of play without any of their main cards actually getting hit. And then last on the forbidden list, interesting one, some might yell at me, and that is Sprite Sprint. And last list and prediction video, I actually did mention Sprite Sprint in there, kind of over Sprite Elf. Obviously, as we saw, Sprite Elf did get hit over the Sprint. But I do like to mention, I think Sprite Sprint does deserve its role and place on the forbidden list as well. Not only being able to kind of completely combo off with the Nimble package, just kind of having explosive first turn in the Sprite deck, but mainly because of going into time in the round after going full combo in sprites and kind of playing a 10-minute board, you're able to link into Sprite Sprint and then just mill out the scatter shot. And you can actually tech Sprite Sprint in a variety of decks, be able to go into him, hit the scatter shot out of the deck, and hit for the 500 in the time in the round coming up, thus kind of leading to a bunch of unsportsmanlike conduct. And a lot of players are like, well, you can do it with Gigantic going into Red Resonator, but I would like to rebuttal that a lot of the times that is at the beginning of a combo, not after you've kind of comboed out for 10 minutes. So it's just kind of just one of those where you use it as the last move as time's about to run out. And I think at some point in time, it will be time to say goodbye to Sprite Sprint. Moving on to the limited list, I think the first one on the list is one that we're kind of looking forward to across all formats, whether that be Master Duel or the OCG, and that is Dragon Ruler of Infernals, Blaster. And I do believe it is time to see Blaster come off the list. Not only is it just, not that crazy with all of its effects, being able to pitch it with the fire to pop one, but as we know, we see that fire duelist pack coming out with the fire support that a ton of people are looking forward to, so it only makes sense that we would see Blaster come off the list to kind of coincide with that pack. After Blaster, and I would like to note, this is mainly if we would not see Diablos hit, okay? I do not believe Diablos would get hit and this card would be put on the limited list. That'd be kind of crazy, actually. But that is Kashtira Birth. And again, if we would not see Diablos get hit for some reason, I do believe we would see Kashtira Birth getting put to 1, mainly because Unicorn either searches the Theosis or it searches the Birth to be able to go into their full combo to lock down the opponent's board. And a lot of times, a player, especially after a Prosperity, will have a Birth or the Theosis in their hand, so it makes the easy target and choice for Unicorn to search. But if Birth is put to 1, that would actually make it where that full combo is a lot less likely to go off. So I do believe if Diablos wouldn't get hit, we would definitely see Birth hit, or, and I'd like to say or again, that would be Kashtira Shangri-La. And again, that is mainly because when you go into the full combo, you see players going to the 2 Shangri-La. So if they're wanting to somehow keep Mind Hacker in the meta game and off the forbidden list, you could kind of recommend that they would hit Birth or the Shangri-La. I don't necessarily think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think, hitting Diablos is the easy choice, and let, Shangri-La be at 3 would be nice. But one Shangri-La, again, you'd get some lockdown with it, but you wouldn't actually see it as consistently locking down an entire opponent's board. And then last on the list is Sprite Starter. Again, if they won't hit Sprint, I would definitely think that they will be hitting Sprite Starter. I was actually mentioning this again on a previous list as well, but Sprite Starter just being the extender for Sprite decks, and again, if you go into the Sprite combo, it gets interrupted, you follow up with Sprite Starter, which is actually even searchable, and then you just keep going into the full Sprite combo. I do believe at some point in time we will see Starter get hit on the limited list as well, and honestly, it is probably that time coming up. After that is going straight to the semi-limited list, and the first card on the semi-limited list, probably no surprise to anyone, but that would be Spellbook of Judgment. And we've been seeing this card come off the list in many ways in a lot of different formats, going from 1 to 2, even in Master Duel, I believe it's at 2 right now, and it should surprise no one that a lot of decks in Master Duel are they're not using it at all, and the ones using it are not going super far in a bunch of the tournaments or in the meta game. And I do believe this card is great. It should definitely come to 2 because it will help spellbooks just be played in general, but I don't think it is as detrimental to the meta game as it was during the spellbook and E-Dragon format. After that is Called by the Grave. And again, I know some might yell at me, and I'm very sorry, but I do believe Called by deserves a spot at 2, especially right now. If you have the one Called by and you're using it to out the hand trap that's just gonna ruin your combo, it's nice knowing that it's not as sacky at 2. Having 1, it feels real lucky. You might have that Called by, you might not, and a lot of players actually can't build decks just thinking that the opponent's going to have the 1 Called by. But if Called by is at 2, it definitely makes the deck building strategy a little bit better, because at that point you know what to expect going into the duel, knowing that your opponent's probably going to have a Called by to at least out one of the hand traps that you have. Some players might not like that, but I do believe Called by the Grave at 2 is definitely justified. Following that up is Mind Control. I'd just like to say Mind Control at 1 and Change of Heart at 1 just really doesn't make sense, and we honestly haven't even seen Change of Heart as heavily played. We see some players teching it for sure, especially with Thrust Out. You can search it to your hand and activate it. But I would like to say Mind Control just being that card where you're essentially just taking an opponent's card to use it as resource for a Link and Exceed or something like that. I think that's kind of justified going to 2, and honestly I don't think it would break the game that much, and it mainly helps going second decks, which honestly as of now really could use the help. Following that up is Draco Face Off. And again, we've seen Draco Slayers kind of, getting played. A lot of the Pendulum players are trying to utilize it. It might get a top here or there, but it's not actually been kind of the deck that a lot of people have been running to play at the major tournaments, unless they're already Pendulum fans. So I believe Draco Face Off going to 2 would help the deck out potentially, and I do not believe it would break it in any way. After that, kind of following the theme of the spell cards, is Upstart Goblin. And again, this card was limited way back when a lot of players were like, I play 37 cards and 3 upstarts. But with New Age Yu-Gi-Oh!, especially with updated time rules, since that has been limited, I would like to add, I don't believe Upstart Goblin will be seeing as much play, even if it would go back to 2 as it did way back in the day. It's just too important to have those extra cards in your decks. And honestly, again, a lot of them would be sided out going into the game 3, because if you activate it and the time runs out, that is not good for you. Next card on the list would be Time Seal. Again, this card was put to 1. No one's played it. Was kind of on the list for a while just because you could actually loop it back with Tsukiyomi and Mask of Darkness way back in the day. But as we know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has evolved, and honestly, setting up cards like this or even like Drastic Drop Off just to kind of block the opponent's draw phase is not quite what it used to be. And to be able to utilize this card, something bad had to have already happened to just destroy your opponent's board and hand and make sure that the Time Seal is the reason that they lose. So going to 2, I don't think it'd be too crazy. Last on the semi-limited list, and this one would be a fun one, is Cyber Jar. Again, I think when this card went to 1, a lot of players were a little shocked because it's been on the list for so long, but I don't think a lot of players were surprised when it wasn't seeing any play. And again, you would have to set it face down and either use things like Book of Tile to flip it up to start utilizing it for its summoning, mechanics to be able to go into multiple monsters on the board, or just hope to God your opponent summons a monster that isn't going to be able to be destroyed by card effects and punch over Cyber Jar. And again, it's just not really happening in today's metagame. So going to 2, if someone wants to utilize that and make it kind of nuts, that'd be kind of interesting to watch, but I don't think it'd be going anywhere even at 2. And then last we have the unlimited list. Now, real quick, I gotta say, hold on one second, let me get my Copium out. Okay, sweet Copium. Now, max C to 3. Okay, I can feel the hate, I really can. And a lot of players are like, but it wasn't printed as a common in the structured deck. It would not come out as a common in a structure deck if it was getting released. And if anything, I would like to say it not coming out as a common in that deck might be a telltale sign we are going to get the card. Because hear me out, and I said this in the last prediction video, when we get Max C back to the TCG, which I declare and I will stand by, we're gonna get one of these formats, we're gonna get it. Even if it's here one day, gone the next, we're gonna get Max C, okay? Now, when it comes out, they're gonna put it in a pack that they don't think it's gonna sell perfectly well as a Starlight Rare, or as a 25th anniversary secret rare. So, I got the tinfoil hat on, I understand we got the Copium on my side, but I do believe that at some point in time, we're going to be seeing Max C to 3 in the TCG. Next on the list, and a little bit more back down to earth of a suggestion, is Pankratops, the Dino Wrestler. So, we've seen Kashtira, we've kind of went through that test grounds with it, and with things like Fenrir out and just kind of doing what Fenrir does, I don't think it's too crazy to have Pankratops come back to 3 and be able to be teched into certain decks that could kind of use that a little initial boost, a little initial powerhouse of 2600. Even dinosaur decks, I think we're going to be seeing some dinosaur support come out in the future, and it's not crazy to think that Pankratops could be teched in some of those builds as well. And again, when you got things like Skill Drain or some of the other, floodgate traps going around, or all the field spells doing what they do, Pankratops being able to quick effect, pop a card before it actually, be able to ruin your board in general would be really nice, especially for some kind of rogue decks to be able to tech. So Pankratops to 3, please. After that, kind of a weird one would be Pot of Desires. Some players want this card completely banned. I don't think that's justified. Banishing 10 off the top of your deck, some don't consider it a cost at all, but I do believe when you are talking about how the Yu-Gi-Oh right now is crazy combo oriented decks, they are not going to be playing Desires. And yes, it gets played in things like Sword Soul. Certain Kashtira builds are playing it, but I think they've mainly opted into that Pot of Prosperity for consistency purposes. And again, Desires without Diablos, it is as bad, but if Diablos does somehow stay around and Pot of Desires goes to 3, if you Desires against someone who's using Diablos, it's good game. You're losing the next turn, okay? Your deck is gone. After that, on the list, and it should honestly not be a surprise to players, is Heller Knight Ptolemus. And we saw this card went to 1. It has not really been utilized. Maybe some people were trying it out, but they're like, all right, this is a little too much. And honestly, if you're going to be using Ptolemus to make anything broken, or like going to Cyber Dragon Infinity or the Constellar Diamond, 1's enough. 2 just makes it where 2 and 3 just makes it where if it gets hit out of your deck with things like Mindhacker or like Unicorn, you can actually still play the combo out. And at 3, it's not going to break the game. That following suit would be things as well like Ancient Fairy Dragon, which I do believe will go to 3 and went to 1. Maybe certain decks played it just to kind of get that field spell going. But honestly, at 3, again, I do not believe it's going to be anything like it used to be back in the day. If I'm correct, it even got that errata. So again, just going to 1, having 3, we're not going to be seeing that much of a difference in the metagame overall. following suit with that as well is Gen X Ally Birdman. Again, back in the day, Birdman was pretty crazy, but nowadays Yu-Gi-Oh! Even returning cards that normal summon with effects like Tour Guide just isn't as crazy as they used to be in the metagame. And last on the list would be Substitoad. And I kind of mentioned this on the last list again. You know, Substitoad, a lot of people were freaking out when it came off, not even eroded, but again, you know, being able to have that monster where it burns for 500 whenever you summon monsters from the deck, if someone's able to make Substitoad FTK, go for it. That means you didn't get hand trapped. It sounds like Glass Cannon to me, but I do believe Substitoad 3 isn't too crazy to see in the TCG. And guys, that is the Banlist prediction. If you got anything out of it, if you like some of the tech choices, the realness ones, or the Copium, definitely hit that sub button. Our numbers are going up and we're getting real close to getting monetized, and I really do appreciate all the support. We're gonna have more videos flying up top, so if you want to check out any more of the content, please do. Please share the video, but most importantly guys, hit that sub button. And as always, most importantly, stay safe, have a good night, and suck it, nerds.